Well, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3 of the Custom Sneaker Podcast. And today we actually have a very special guest who's actually really big in the customizing industry. We have Dillon Dejesus with Dejesus Custom Footwear. And so, Dillon, I'll kind of just let you, kind of introduce yourself and kind of how you got into customizing shoes.
How you doing, everybody? Thanks for having me, bud. My name's Dillon from Dejesus Custom Footwear. I've been a full-time sneaker customizer for probably coming up on, I think, 9 years this year. I got my start into it when I was in college. I went to school for architecture, had really been into collecting sneakers throughout high school and whatnot. And then in early 2011, I saw more people online were painting, specifically at that time, Jordans, to look like other rare models of shoes. And so I saw El Capi actually paint a pair of Jordan 6s to look like the LeBron South Beach 8s at the time. And being a broke college student, I couldn't afford the actual LeBron. So I decided, let me go ahead and give this painting thing a try. And from there, posted into random Facebook sneaker groups. And this is in the early days of Instagram. So posted on there and just right away was able to kind of draw interest in other people reaching out to me to do theirs. And so I went on to try to find a balance for about a year and a half between school and customizing shoes. And then after my third year of college, I decided to go full time with the sneaker customizing.
So kind of like you talking about your college or whatever, and I guess kind of like leaving college and trying to fully dive into that. So like, what was that transition like? Like, were you ever like worried, or did you doubt yourself, or did anybody say anything? Because that's like a big testament to just like honestly self-belief. So like, I didn't know if that was like
Absolutely.
Like, had it been like a trying time too going into that?
For sure. So I went to school for architecture. So where I went, it was going to be a 5-year program. I had finished my third year. Even after you finish school to become a licensed architect, there's 7 really long tests. So in order for me to really become successful in the career path I was heading towards, to me, it seemed like a really long road. So to me, as I was kind of trying to find this balance between work and school, I started to realize that I was already starting to make money and build a business while I was still going to school, not even giving it my all. And so after my second year, I had just finished an internship that they no longer needed me for the summer. And I said, okay, well, rather than going and getting, like a retail job or whatever the case would be, let me try to work on building the shoe business for an entire summer and actually only focus on that. After I had kind of dabbled in it here and there after school throughout my second year of college. So after I built it up a lot, that summer of 2012, I went back for my third year and I finished my third year, but the entire year, it was really hard to find this balance between school and work. And anytime I was working on shoes, I was not thinking about school at all.
Yeah.
But anytime I was at school and doing architecture, homework and projects, all I could think about was wanting to do shoes. So I just realized kind of where my love and passion was. And I was young at the time. I don't know, 19 or 20, still lived at home. So I had to, of course, tell my parents, hey, I'm picking this route. So that was, of course, something to worry about.
Right.
But to me, it was just like I thankfully kind of already was onto something. Like I had already worked and built something up a little bit over a year and a half. So I absolutely was taking a gamble, but I was also betting on something that I certainly saw was there. And imagine now if I didn't have to travel to school and put forth all these hours, doing classwork and stuff. So,
wow. Was there like a breaking point? Like, was there like a point where you're like, bro, I'm done. Like, I'm just done. I'm about to focus on shoes. So like I graduate this Saturday actually. And so I started customizing shoes.
Congratulations, man.
You.
Awesome.
Thank you. And I started customizing shoes like my sophomore year and like going into my sophomore year. And ever since then, I've been like, bro, every time I'm in school, I'm like, bro, this isn't even what I want to be doing. Like, I just want to do shoes. So I didn't know if there was like a breaking point where you're like, man, I'm done. Like,
I think I can't necessarily point to one moment. I think it was definitely like built up over a year, but I just remember being in class, like we would take computer classes and learn these complex programs. And I was just sitting on like sneakernews.com and building my website and responding to emails and just, I was there, but I absolutely was not there. I I had no intention on caring what they were trying to teach me, because I was just so focused on all of this other stuff. And so, yeah, I think that there was just the breaking points built up over time of like, I have this project due on Monday, but yet I have, these customers reaching out and kind of saying, hey, where's my shoes? You had kind of given, and I remember at the time constantly like, really, this also just starting a business for the first time. How do you deal with deadlines, and how do you deal with, the timelines that you tell your customers, hey, I'll have something done in 2 weeks. But then what happens when, a school project comes up and
they don't care about
whatnot,
school.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. And to be fair, that's okay, because you're providing a service to them, and you told them it was going to be a set time. So I certainly learned, even nowadays, all these years later, I always overextend my timelines by a long shot.
Yeah.
And that's okay, knowing that I'm going to lose some customers saying, hey, everything's Amazon Prime now. I want it tomorrow. I want it today by 2 p.m. So what do you mean it's going to take 2 months? That I have no interest in that. So I'm okay with that. But then I also, have the time to work on the projects that I wanted to. But yeah, so it was just built up over a year that I just realized, like, this is, I just want to be doing something else. And just seeing, like, during that year of college was when the first time I was able to work with a celebrity. The first celebrity actor, anything like that I did was for, I did some pairs of Jordan 4s for Trinidad James. And that was while I was still in school.
The cheetah ones,
and so I got to, I got to deliver them to him at a concert here in Chicago.
Wow.
And then as we moved towards springtime, which we're in now, and when school's ending, I had got to work with my first NBA player. This is when the Bulls were pretty good at the time. And it was a guy who was at the end of the bench. His name was Malcolm Thomas at the time. But this is when the Bulls played. Yeah, Bulls played Brooklyn in the playoffs.
Wow. And
he wore a pair of Jordan 11s that we painted. So that was towards the end of the school year. And then I just realized, like, I'm on the upswing. You know what I mean? I need to just really commit my all to this.
Okay. And so I know one thing that I know you said just from like being a subscriber and watching your YouTube channel is that you've talked about how when you started, there were no tutorials. There wasn't any. I know you call it like toothpick gang, or there wasn't any like sanding of cleats. And like for me starting up, I started in 2017. And so a lot of that was watching your videos or watching Serato or watching, you know what I'm saying? Just watching other people do it. And I don't know I don't know how I would do it without like having tutorials and having people like you to make those. So how did you like survive? How are you doing what you were doing and not, you know what I'm saying, nobody was able to guide you on that?
Yeah, so this is, like 2011, 2012, YouTube was absolutely there. It was absolutely nowhere near what it is now. I remember I watched one tutorial on YouTube that it probably had a simple title, like how to paint leather shoes or something like that. And I watched that before I painted a pair, and I very specifically remember the guy saying, you have to prep your shoes to remove the factory finish. Otherwise, they're just going to crack as soon as you wear them. And I remember thinking to myself, what does this guy know what he's talking about? I just want to get to the paint. Like I was just, I'm a dive right in kind of guy. So I was just anxious to lay the teal paint on the white shoes. I didn't want to care about prepping any of that. So, but you do quickly learn that there is a right way to do it, because they crack right away. And then you're like, okay, maybe I should have listened to this guy. He probably knows a little bit more than me. So at that time, I remember just searching like forums, like, there used to be forums on like soulcollector.com of people painting stuff and just random little places. And I remember when I would reach out to, and I would see other people reach out and comment on some of the bigger sneaker customizers posts, the answers would always be, hey, you got to do your own trial and error. Hey, you got to go find it out yourself. There wasn't people giving out information stuff. It was kind of, dog eat dog world. You got to put in the hours, you got to do your own trial and error. So many, many years later, that's when I was kind of like, okay, there's still really not a great place to go and find out all of this stuff and learn from somebody. I think Angelus was doing a great job, but that was kind of, you're learning from the company. So of course they're going to say this and that. So how can you find a trustworthy person who has already built a business on this and has years of experience and knows what they're talking about. And I always find parallels between the sneaker customizing world and the tattoo world.
Okay.
And I think one of the big issues with sneaker customizers starting out is you don't know how your work's going to look 5 to 6 to 7 years from now. At this point, I can confidently say I have pairs that I've worn for 5, 6, 7 years. And there's a huge difference between how your pair looks on day one when you finish painting it and how it looks a month later, and how it looks a year later, and how it looks 5 years later, depending on what you do. So that's what pushed us towards wanting to help and do more about that, because it was really hard starting out. And I just remember constantly talking to other customizers who were coming up at the same time as me, who didn't feel the need to knock somebody else down because there wasn't these answers out there. So it was like, hey, what are you doing? Here's what I've tried. Here's what didn't work. So that's kind of how it came about when I was coming up.
Gotcha. See, because I have like a similar story coming up, because I remember watching you. You were always like, the prep's the most important step, and I'd be like, I mean, but kind of like you, like I just wanted to get to the painting. That's the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely, it's no
exciting.
Fun. It's not sexy. Nobody wants to prep. Yeah,
I want to put it on. I want to put it on Instagram. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that was my deal. And so I remember like I did my first pair of cleats for an NFL player like this December, and I remember I was just watching your videos, just like how to sand and getting that detail sander from Amazon, and then getting the 3 levels of grit, and then getting the Scotch-Brite pads. And so like, and the cleats actually, like he wore the cleats and like there was no chipping or anything like that. So yeah, I was just,
who was this for?
Preston Brown. He's the middle linebacker for the Raiders. And so I remember I was
very cool.
Thank you. And I remember I was just watching that and I was like, man, like if I didn't watch your videos, like, I don't know, like, I don't know what I would have done. I would have just slammed some paint on it, gave it to them, and they wouldn't have held up. So I was just, I couldn't imagine starting out and like not knowing. So that was just a huge question. And then, so another question I had was, I know that like you have a ton of experience customizing shoes, like you said, 9, 10 years. And one thing I like admire about you is that it seems like you're so willing to like help other customizers and kind of like generate a community and really just bring other customizers in and kind of just help and go off one another. And so I was wondering like what makes you so willing to help other customizers?
I think kind of thankfully we already touched on it. It's just that it wasn't there for me. So now I know I get I just want to be the resource that I didn't have coming up. And so that's why so many of my videos are very long format of me talking and getting incredibly specific and trying to explain it exactly how I would do it. I know that there could be better ways for the algorithm and for us to maybe grow quicker on YouTube, to do things certain ways that other people have done. But this way, nobody can watch our videos and never say like, if I want to learn something, I didn't learn it from here because he wanted to make the video shorter or make it more like clickbait or something like that. Like if you really sit there and want to watch our videos and want to learn, I think we have like 150 plus videos now, like you're learning, I mean, 10 years of information and experience of me trying to jam pack it into videos. And thankfully, so many of our videos are built on projects that we're actually working on. So it has real world application also, that like, here's a project I'm actually being commissioned for, and here's how I would actually do it. You know what I mean? I'm not just doing it for the sake of taking a picture or making a video.
Do you ever get worried that like somebody will steal your techniques? Because that's what I've heard from other, like I've started making like YouTube videos, and I've heard from other customizers, and then being like, hey, like don't tell them your secret, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't show them how you do this.
Yeah.
Are you ever worried about that? Like, does that ever come up when you're like, because you're very detailed on how you do it?
About 98 or so, when Kobe started to do the turnaround fadeaway, do you think Mike was worried?
Nah. No, he wasn't worried.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, because the experience, the hours, you know what I mean? And so you can go to, Michael Jordan's basketball camp. Now I'm not saying I'm the Michael Jordan at all. There's people that are absolutely better than me. But I'm just saying, like, you can go to a basketball camp hosted by an NBA player. It's not going to make you better than him right away or anything like that. It's, there's going to be a ton of hours and experience that you're going to have to put in. And at the end of the day, like, competition is good. Competition is great. Like the sneaker customizing industry being a boom is phenomenal. And I'm seeing new people do new things, and that challenges me. So I love that challenge that's out there, that if I take it easy, people are coming for me. People want to take over my spot. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that's how I think of it. That it's so funny because when I first got on YouTube, my mom reached out and was like, "Hey, but why are you giving away all the secrets? Why are you telling people everything?" You know what I mean? It's the same type of thing. That mindset of, you know, the competition and whatnot. And that was just the first analogy that came to my mind right away about like, look at how Kobe copied everything that Mike did, or look at how you can go to a LeBron James or Chris Paul basketball camp every summer. That doesn't mean that after you take the camp, you're going to be better than you might one day, but there's a lot of hours in between there. So,
right. And so since people do come to you a lot, just like for advice, and I remember, I think I did like a year ago, I remember I asked you if you could like critique my profile. And so I'm sure that you get that a lot. What's like a common mistake that you see customizers making like all the time?
Yeah. So the biggest one to me is photography, like far and away, far and away, because there are some people who enter this industry with a strong artistic background, which is awesome, because I didn't really. Like the last art class I took in school was 6th grade, because when I got to junior high, 7th and 8th grade, we were allowed to pick and choose the electives I wanted. And I took like Spanish or something else. I didn't even take art. And then in high school, all I focused on was drafting classes to prepare myself for architecture school. So I hadn't taken any art classes or anything like that. But a lot of people enter this industry and are great artists, but they take pictures on their bed sheets or on their messy desk. And to me, custom sneakers are and always will be a luxury item. That's how I certainly like to view them, and that's how I portray them and try to sell them. And if you're going to have what is considered a luxury item, you got to make it look that way. And you can have incredible artwork, but if you don't put the time into your product photography, it's such a missed opportunity. And so to me, that's the biggest issue. And you really don't have to do that much. We actually have something coming out in the not too distant future on a PDF guide to some beginner custom sneaker photography, because so much of it can be done
with an iPhone,
with what you have nearby, whether it be with an iPhone, absolutely. And then simple backgrounds and textures that are available to you. Like brick works as a great background. Cement can work as a great background. Grass can work as a great background. But how do you pose them? How do you frame the shot? And editing the photos. I think that a lot of people may think like an edit kind of looks like a filter, or they're just kind of used to seeing like the little filters that are on Instagram or something like that. But if you know anybody with a DSLR camera, anybody who invests money into photography, they edit probably 100% of their photos. And that's not to say that you're lying or something like that, but cameras intentionally shoot with certain settings so that they can more easily be tweaked later. So just spending more time on the product photography, to me, is the biggest downfall that customizers have. And I certainly made the mistakes. I did not know any better when starting out. I took pictures in front of my mom's pantry, just on weird tile, in front of weird closets. I made every mistake in the books, and you don't know any better when you're starting out. So.
Got you. No, that was that's kind of how it was for me. I didn't know any better coming out of it. It was actually kind of funny because I remember I watched you just came out with a video like reviewing people's not the TikTok video, but reviewing what other customizers, like how much a custom sneaker would cost, how much they're selling it for.
Oh, okay.
And I remember like there were some pretty good cool designs, but they were doing it on their bed. And you were like, they need to take better pictures. Like, and I think that's huge. Cause like, even when like on Etsy, when I started off, I first wasn't making any sales. All I did was like, I got somebody to edit my pictures. I started, and then like my like second month. So I wasn't making any sales that first month. The second month I made $2,000 in sales just cause I changed some pictures. The shoe wasn't different. Awesome. I didn't add anything. Awesome. I just had somebody who's really good at editing photos. And so that changed it. And so I know that was a huge thing starting off, because I was taking it in front of rocks, like just weird stuff on tables, on picnic tables. I used to do picnic tables a lot. So I don't know. It's just weird how you
really have to train your eye to even understand what what we're even saying when we say you want to have, you know, better product photography, because so often you don't know if you've never done it before. You know what I mean? And yeah, so to me, one thing is just kind of look at big Instagram pages that have grown. There's a really good chance they have great product photography, and try to emulate some of their styles. Like one of our favorite pages to look at is Kith, and how Ronnie Feig does, you know, his brand, not Ronnie's page, Kith's page, and then Kith has like, you know, 10 different Instagrams for all the different stuff, but they do incredible product photography. So, custom sneakers to me, they'll always be a little, they're in line with streetwear and stuff. So how do you give it that vibe also? And then, you know, sometimes you're doing a really cool theme, the theme of your shoe, go find a background that matches the theme or something like that. So.
And I know you kind of talked about it earlier. So I know you did multiple pairs for the Brooklyn Nets. I can't remember the amount of pairs that you said. I think it was in like the, did you say like the 20s or 40s, or was it in the
200? 200.
So I'm way off. That's crazy. How did what happened? How did you get that? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so the funny story behind that is that we also are on Etsy. I don't post shoes for sale on Etsy, but I have a few stencils that I use that we've posted on Etsy. So we have some reusable airbrush stencils. We have a stencil that helps you if you're trying to make a pair of the Bape Camo Vans. And so our Etsy shop is just stencils. So in October of 2018, I got a message on Etsy from somebody saying, hey, I'm looking for a pair of Brooklyn Nets Jordan 1s. I see some people are selling something similar for around 200. What can you do? And so I don't really have anything at that price range. So I said, okay, you know, hey, thank you. Here's some of our other work. For us to do something like that, it's going to be, I think we might have said 400 or something like that. So I did a very simple pair of Jordan 1s in the Brooklyn Nets are, you know, black and white. So it was very simple with the Nets logo. And so I sent them out to him and he said, wow, thank you. I love these. I happen to be the CFO of the Brooklyn Nets and the chief financial officer. So when you go to like the Brooklyn Nets website, there's like the owner, the CEO, like 5 people down is this guy, the CFO. His name is Mike Zavodsky. He actually left the Brooklyn Nets after last season and now is the president of Rock Nation, Jay-Z's company. So he's been on like Forbes, 40 under 40, just a well-connected dude. Awesome guy.
That's crazy.
And so right after that, this is at the start of the NBA season. It's October. He said, hey, we're going to be releasing these city edition jerseys this year. And ours are inspired by Biggie's Coogee sweater. Do you think you could cook up a similar pair of Jordan 1s with the Coogee sweater print for me? And I said, yeah, sure. So I make those, send him a mock-up, send him the pair. He loved them. And he's like, wow, these are incredible. I want to get 4 pairs done as Christmas presents for some of our big-time season ticket holders. And if you're down, come out to Brooklyn and meet some of them and stuff.
Of course.
So I fly out to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
He flies me out there, puts me in an awesome Marriott hotel in Brooklyn.
That's crazy.
Gives me courtside seats to the Brooklyn Nets game, literally courtside, like touching one of the most insane experiences ever. I meet some of the people that he gifts the shoes to. Just a super cool dude. And then he's like, they all love them as gifts. What if we release these to the public? And I said, awesome. We're going to have to figure out quite a few things. You're a well-connected dude. Can you get us a Nike plug? Can you get us a Jordan plug? Can you get these base shoes?
That's so hard. I can't do it.
I've been, like I said, been doing this for all these years, and I still don't have a bulk shoe deal or anything like that. So the big thing to do on our end was how are we going to handle pricing? Because trying to sell to 200 people in a stadium of 25,000 or whatever it is, people aren't there to buy $500 shoes. You would have the diehards who don't look at price tags, but the average person walking by is going to say, hey, here's a cool looking pair of shoes. Typically a lot of Jordans are maybe, $200 or something like that. So I'm expecting something on there. So we had a few rounds of negotiation on pricing and whatnot. We ended up at $349 for Jordan 1s and $329 for Air Forces. A lot lower than, where we would be for a typical one-off order. But because we were going to be doing such high volume, that's what ended up working best. So I went back and forth between Chicago and Brooklyn 5 or 6 times last year. We were there on the first game after the All-Star break. We were there for Dwayne Wade's final game, for some of the playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a wild time, and one of the just coolest this isn't a word. One of the coolest experiences I've ever been a part of. I'm a lifelong sports fan. I love basketball, and so to have my shoes and artwork featured in a stadium is just incredible.
That's crazy. Like thinking about where shoes can take you. Like I'll be thinking, because like I've been like to different places because of shoes I never thought, but like just thinking about you, like you took a chance on art, like on just not doing architecture. You took a chance on something you wanted to do, and then that's crazy that you got to sell got to sell shoes to the Nets and meet high up people. Like that's crazy. And he's even 40 under 40. Like that's nuts.
Yeah.
And so my next question was, so I know like I said, I know you've been doing this for 9 years. So out of all of that, what is your favorite custom, like that you've ever done?
Wow.
I know that's a tough one.
It's seriously like picking your own child. Certainly the Brooklyn Nets project is one of my absolute favorite projects. I have a few other pairs that might be a little bit more towards like my style and what I like to do. So I always draw the parallels to tattooing. So I have some tattoo inspired pairs that I really enjoy. I have a couple pairs that I've made for my son. I have a 1-year-old son. We made a pair when my wife wanted to announce we were pregnant on social media, and we had a pair for his first birthday. So those pairs are obviously certainly sentimental. So those are really cool. The one pair that I wish I had my first pair that I ever painted. I actually posted them for sale on eBay. Since it was so many years ago, a couple of years back, I looked on eBay to see if I could find like my selling history and go that many years back and potentially reach out to the buyer and just say, hey, do you by chance have these? Can I buy them back? Did you sell them again? Do you have any info on how I could get a hold of these? But eBay wouldn't let me go that far back to find my first pair, but that would have been really cool.
Gotcha. And so does that first one that you did, does that mean the most to you, would you say?
The only reason that I say no is because it wasn't good. Like it wasn't good at all. It's cool that it's, a moment in my story and my history, but it's certainly not my favorite. I don't think I would say that it means the most to me. If I had to pick one that means the most to me, to me, that Brooklyn pair is just like, it's a culmination of all these years later, things that you said, like, look at where sneakers have taken you. Look at something that I always preach of, try to treat every single customer the same. And thankfully I built a good relationship with this person who reached out to me right away and didn't reveal who he was until he kind of figured out that I was, trustworthy and ran a good business and stuff. So to me, that one's just an insane story that I'll definitely never forget.
Gotcha. And so another question is, what was the hardest you've ever done? The most difficult design?
The hardest shoe that I ever did was last year. I painted a pair of Jordan 1s. They were actually for this guy, Mike, the Brooklyn guy. He ended up ordering like 20 other pairs from me shortly after. And he's a huge Jordan 1 guy. So he wanted a pair of Jordan 1s that had the shot, Mike's last shot, game 6 in Utah, crossing over Byron Scott. And so I painted that on the back panel of a Jordan 1. And we did it in black and gray. And it was just one of the most time consuming just pairs ever. I probably 30 plus hours into that pair. And I don't specialize or act like my forte is realism or portrait work. I'm actually working on it right now. I've been kind of practicing my portrait work every day for about a month, and we're actually going to have a pretty cool video on that pretty soon on, practicing one area that you're weak in for an entire month and what can happen. And I've taken some online courses, and I've tried to take my, people come to me to learn. How can I go to somebody else to learn? And how do I learn from other teachers on how to be a better teacher per se? So I've been working a lot on my portraits. And so that pair specifically, I think will always come to me as like, I remember being pretty stressed out at the time of,
Mm-hmm.
are these ever going to come together to where I'm satisfied? And the end result was pretty awesome.
Okay, that's awesome. And so I know this past NFL season, I'm not sure how many cleats you did. I just know that you came out with a video of you doing, I can't remember the teams, but I know you did like 15 for one team, 12 for the other, and then you did some for the Chicago Fire, and then I think there was another team too. So how did you get to that point to where that was countless of hours. I know it, and you did a video on it, and I know that probably took a long time. So like, how did you get to the point where you had your hand into all these different, into like the MLS and into the NFL? So how did you get there?
Yeah, so the My Cause, My Cleats boom has really, I think maybe last year was the 4th year of doing it. And every year it's been a little bit different. The first year it was very much like the players are on their own. If anybody wants it, players, go find your own artist. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
As each year's gone by, certain teams are a little bit more like, hey, let's find one artist to do a lot of our players. And anybody who wants to go get a separate artist, that's okay. But we're going to maybe have somewhat of like a team artist and things like that. It's grown a little bit each year. And so to me, it's all about building relationships and, staying true to, something we touched on very early, timelines and, having great customer service to me is something that you should take a lot of pride in. And that's really where I think that I've been able to build a lot of these connections that have gotten me these cool projects. So I think we did maybe 15 or so pairs for the Jaguars during the My Cause, My Cleats, and then like 10 of the coaches or something. And then we did maybe another 15 Bears players. I actually got to go to where the Bears practice and have a consultation with each of the guys.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. And so that, and then just a few other teams, sometimes players are represented by agents, and the agents will have multiple players. The agent will like working with you specifically and say, here, I'm going to hand you 5 of my players or something like that. So it's all about customer service. And then at that same time, the Chicago Fire were going to be rebranding. They hadn't announced it yet. It was still probably a month or two away from them. They were rebranding, new logo, new colors and everything. And they had somebody in the office had reached out and said, hey, we love your work. We're going to be announcing that the Chicago Fire are moving to Soldier Field soon. They were in the south suburbs of Chicago. They had a very weird stadium location that they built for soccer specifically.
Yeah.
And Soldier Field is where the Bears play. That's in downtown. And so the fandom of soccer in Chicago has not been very high for a lot of years. They also haven't been good. They announced they were buying out their lease in the suburbs and going to be moving back to downtown. They were announcing this with the mayor in the stadium, and they said, do you want to make a pair of shoes for the mayor to kind of have just in her office, a pair of cleats, with the logo and Soldier Field 2020, all this stuff. So we did that. And again, I just built a good relation with them, had good customer service, got them. It was a super quick turnaround too. I think I had a day. They reached out and they're like, hey, we're announcing this tomorrow. Do you think you can do it? And I was like,
can now.
Yeah, I need the cleats in an hour. You know what I mean? And I live in the south suburbs also. They were able to get me the cleats within a couple hours to do them overnight. So just good customer service and getting things done on time for people. And they were like, okay, cool. Now we're going to be doing this rebranding. Are you willing to do a 20 pair run that we can give away to new players and give away to fans on social media and this stuff? And this just happened to come at the time of My Cause, My Cleats in the NFL season, which is our busiest time of the year. So it was just a crazy timing situation. Yeah, the month of November was very, very, very little sleep.
Man, that's nuts. And so I know you just reached 100K. I watched that video. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
But my advice would be, because other customizers are starting to get into YouTube as well. So like, what advice do you have for those who are trying to grow their presence on YouTube that are also customizing?
My advice, I want to not go too many different directions. But one thing that I took for advice when I decided to dive into YouTube that I thought was pretty interesting, because I've never heard it anywhere else. I was listening to a podcast about maybe business or something like that. And they had said, if you're entering a new space, whether it be Instagram or YouTube or something like that, first, you'll always hear this, but find a niche. So if your niche is custom
Yes.
sneakers, find
And then
find
do that.
five find maybe 5 to 10 styles of content that are working in the custom sneaker niche. And so find styles of videos that people are really enjoying, that have high view counts and something like that, and try to emulate them and put your own spin on it. So what we did when one of our first videos was a simple pair of Bape Vans.
Yeah.
Because when we searched up custom sneakers in early 2018, a lot of the first videos on that first page were custom Bape Vans. So we said, you know what, let's try to take something that's working and do it our own. And so we did a full tutorial on it, whereas some of the other videos were just time lapses, no talking. So it's not saying you need to go and recreate it and be an exact copy. Put your own spin on it. Find out what you are. You can be somebody like, Marco in the custom sneaker world, who's not necessarily doing tutorials, but he has his own style of video that really works. And there's plenty of other examples. So,
and he customizes everything too, other than just shoes.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Yeah. So this is something we also kind of touched on with, Instagram and photography. Find a page that you really like and try to emulate some of the stuff. You know what I mean? So to me, that's something that I don't think I hear enough people say. Find content that really works in your niche and put your own spin on it. So if you're entering custom shoes, find out the videos that work and put your own spin on it, or find what's missing in the custom sneaker space. What is not being talked about? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people are, at least a lot of things that I've heard, because I watch a lot of like podcasts and different things like that. And so like often people will say like, oh, well, so many people are already doing time lapses and they're already doing this style. So that's not good. I can't do it. And one thing I heard is like competition is actually good because it proves that there's a market for it. And there's an industry and people that are actually really, really interested in watching it. So if you can hone in on that, kind of like what you said, just put your own spin on it, make it a little bit different, but it's still kind of that same genre. Like there is potential to do it. And so that's just one thing that like I've been really studying up on. And so my next question, actually last question. So what does the future look like for you? I know you've been customizing shoes for 9 years. Do you plan to, do socks or t-shirts or hats or whatever it may be? Do you plan to kind of get out of that at any point?
I don't think I would ever leave the custom sneaker world because I have a love for sneakers. I certainly want to continue to do various forms of art over the next many years, but I think at the root of it, I truly believe it will stay custom sneakers because that's where my love is, my love for shoes. But yeah, I would love to venture into doing a lot more things. We've done a few motorcycle helmets, jean jackets, things like that. And those are cool projects to me. Those are exciting because it after doing it for so many years and every single day, it's still painting, but it is outside of my norm. So it feels a little different working on them, that it's, kind of exciting and a new challenge and things like that. And, this is a great question that you'll hear a lot, do you have a 5-year plan or anything like that? And out of all of these 8 to 9 years or whatever it is, if you asked me at any point, I would have said a different answer every year because every year it changes. And it's so funny that, with everybody being inside the quarantine and thought, I work from home, and I thought, my day-to-day won't change too much. But I realized so much of the stuff that really excites me is at least seemingly once or twice a month, I'm doing a really cool in-person event or something like that, a project with the Brooklyn Nets or painting shoes at a concert or a festival or something like that. And now, unfortunately, none of that's around. So it's certainly a lot more Groundhog Day-ish, and that stuff is just a nice breakup. So I hope to continue to do more of that. Also, more events and in-person stuff. And unfortunately, we were hosting our first custom sneaker course. It was scheduled to be this past April, but because of everything, we had to postpone it. So I'm incredibly excited on that. That I think I have a passion and a motivation for teaching. So throwing my hat even more into that ring of teaching and hopefully inspiring over the next few years is something that we definitely are focused on.
Gotcha. And I know, okay, so I got one more question because you kind of brought it up. And I know I even
Absolutely.
I even asked you this, but I just think it'd be good for the audience to hear it. So as a customizer, like with everything that's going on, what is your advice?
Yeah, so there's two camps certainly of people saying, hey, maybe now is a great time to focus on your weak points, bring up
Mhm.
some of your weak points, focus on something outside of your norm. And then there's a lot of people who will right away kind of rebuttal that and say, hey, there's a lot going on right now. Everybody's anxiety levels are high, stress levels are high. You don't have to better yourself during this time, and that's
Okay.
okay. If
Mhm.
if you want to just relax, take it easy at that time, that's 100% okay. But now's a great time to let's say somebody listening right now doesn't necessarily have a full business where they have enough work to stay busy for the
Mhm.
foreseeable future. They're wondering, what can I do? Well, try something to make yourself better. Spend more time on becoming a better digital artist and
Yeah.
continuing to progress and how well and how fast you're able to do mock-ups.
Mhm.
Spend more time on your content, on taking better photography, learning
Mhm.
more about photography, learning more about editing photos, learning how to edit videos, because learn how can videos help grow your business. No
Right.
matter any business you're in, process people will always enjoy seeing. If it's cooking, if it's
Mhm.
woodworking, there's always going to be a desire to watch the process. And like for me, I touched on a little bit that during this time, I said, you know what? I've always said one day I'm going to take the time to really learn how to do portraits.
Mhm.
And to me, this seemed like this is a great time,
Perfect
that
time.
because now I don't have those events and things like
Mhm.
that. I certainly still have a backlog of orders, but also because I touched on earlier, I always tell people a
Overtime.
way
Mhm.
longer timeline than it's actually going to take so that I can do stuff like this. And I've really, really have focused on practicing portraits every single day. I've bought online courses, I've watched countless hours on how to do this. So to me, I'm in the camp of work on yourself, find something that can you come out of this better? Can you learn a new skill? You can absolutely come out of this better, whether it be, just improving areas that you're already good at, just
Mhm.
practicing. Don't just be in the camp of, well, I don't have anything to practice on, I don't have anything to work on. I think a lot of people reach out to me and
Right.
say that, hey, I can't afford the base shoes, hey, I can't afford the paint, something like that. just
Mhm.
just find ways to do art, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
continue to practice. I understand that certainly now at times like this, maybe you can't get the shoes, maybe you can't get the paint, maybe you don't have the
Mhm.
money for this, fun money for that, but just continue to practice. Don't just spend because I'm guilty of it too. Don't just spend all your time on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and
Mhm.
YouTube and Facebook and
Yeah.
convince yourself that it's for the better, that it's, oh,
Mhm.
I'm learning on here or something like that. I'm 100% guilty of this too, but put your phone away and practice. You know what I mean?
Right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Well, honestly, that was great. Thank you for coming on, sharing your words of wisdom. But other than that, man, thank you. Like, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yes.
Pleasure talking with you.
All right, guys. Well, there y'all had it. I definitely want to shout out to Dillon Dejesus for coming on and really just giving us a lot of wisdom and a lot of things to marinate on. I know definitely for myself, I can definitely take some stuff back and put it into my repertoire. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like I said, we do this every Monday, providing y'all something to look forward to on Mondays, and we'll see you guys next week.